Hey, what is up you guys, and welcome back to my channel. Rahul here. Today's video is going to be kind of a continuation from my previous video in which I bought 4 different watches at 4 different price ranges, and it was a video about how I ended up buying them and unboxing them as well. Now in this video we are going to take a closer look at these watches, starting off with the $5 smartwatch. Okay, now this little thing here is a surprisingly comfortable smartwatch. Now you see, looking at the build quality itself, it's a plastic build, like all the way through including the screen, and it has this one capacitive button, or like this area, which is pretty much used for every single thing. There's no other touch controls here or anywhere. It's literally just this one capacitive button. Now the display of the watch itself is pretty interesting because it's not great by any means, but I personally really like it. You see, at least I like the concept or the idea behind it. I also kind of like how they executed it, but it is a $5 watch, so the screen itself is pretty dim, and also the plastic surface makes it so reflective to the point where that if there's any bright lights around, or even if you're out there in the sunlight, it really messes it up. You cannot really see anything in the screen because it's just that reflective. Combined with the fact that it's also not bright at all, you got a pretty terrible display here. Okay, another super creative thing about this watch is that you can actually remove these things, and one of them has like this USB port that you can plug into your computer or any charger to actually charge this device, which, by the way, I personally think is like super creative. And since it doesn't have any opening parts or anything, not a microphone or anything like that, it's also water resistant. It has 3 watch faces that you can get into by long pressing the capacitive button. And if you touch it quickly, it shows you other options like the number of steps, distance you walked, calories burned, heart rate, blood pressure, oxygen levels, find phone feature, messages, and finally some information on the watch. If you long press the capacitive button once more, it shuts it off. And probably the best thing about this watch is that there's actually an app in App Store that you can download. It's called the Liftphone App or the Liftphone App. Surprisingly enough, it works. It is a decent app. It's not great by any means. It is a decent app, and it does a lot of what it's supposed to do. It syncs all your data from the watch to the phone, and it has pretty quirky features on itself, especially its shake for selfie feature, which first of all has a camera app within that app, and you can shake your watch to take a photo, which I mean, pretty nice. It's a really good party trick. I mean, the images come out weird and elongated for some reason, but it's still a pretty good party trick. But what's not a party trick and actually works is the Find Watch feature, which if you click on it, it vibrates your watch wherever it is, and you can find it. I actually lost this watch while I was reviewing it, and I used this feature to find this watch out. Another really good function about this watch is that when you lift up the watch by itself, the screen turns on but on its own, and I think that's like really cool, especially at this price range for $5. Every single function that I've explained is like crazy. Like, you shouldn't be able to get all these things in a $5 package. Surprisingly enough, you actually don't get all these features in a $5 package. Okay, you see, the thing about this watch is that it does a really good job of actually convincing you. But if you look at the actual data, for example, the number of steps you've taken or the calories burned are like completely off. If I just walk around my house and wave my hand like 2 times, it would register like 200 steps. It's that bad. And in relation, the other features such as the calories burned and the distance walked are also completely wrong. Which, to be fair, I'm not surprised. The watch did advertise saying that it has GPS, so it definitely doesn't have any GPS of any sort. But what I do think it has is an accelerometer, which I think it detects the motion that, when you're walking, your arm shakes, and it kind of detects that motions and, try to register it as like a step. And I'm pretty sure that's also how the other features like the shake for selfie and things like that work. I think that's the biggest irony of this watch. This watch advertises itself as this health companion, while health features is actually the weakest aspect of this watch. Now, another couple of features about this watch is the heart rate, blood pressure, and the oxygen. Now, if I were to open it up, it even has a sensor light on the back. It's that convincing to the point where I actually believe the readings by this are correct until I tested it out. It's making up all of this values on its own. And if you just like put up this watch in literal air, it still gives you the same values, which I think is pretty bad. But at the same time, it goes a long way to convince you that these values are accurate, starting with the light itself. And also it takes a really good amount of time to actually get those values, making you believe that these values are accurate. So there is that. It's a funny little watch because it's good in some ways and like worse in others. But I mean, for $5, that's a pretty good deal for a watch. Okay, now this is the $10 watch. This I had a lot of hopes for because it had such a utilitarian design to it. I thought since it doesn't have any like fancy display or things like that, the other aspects of this watch might work really well, including the step counter or anything that this watch came with. Unfortunately, that was not the case. You see, in terms of design, I really like it, and it comes with 4 buttons, which is light, mode, start, and reset. And if you long press on the light, it makes a sound which essentially shows that this watch can be paired to your phone via Bluetooth. But the issue is that once you've done that, it kind of ends there. Okay, to start over with, when you do connect it to your phone, it automatically updates the time and the date. But that's right about all it does, because I couldn't find an app anywhere that would actually sync to this watch. I tried a bunch of third-party apps. There's supposed to be like a stock app from the manufacturer, but it seems to be removed from the Play Store. So yeah, there's that. Now, just looking at the watch itself, like the features of it, if you click on mode, you can see the calendar, which shows you the date and the month. Then there is the number of steps you've taken, calories burned, the distance, alarm, and finally stopwatch. It also has these 3 other icons down there, like a call, mail, and camera. To be honest, I don't know what these things do. Now, to its credit, it does seem like this watch actually calculates the number of steps you've taken, correct? So it was really unfortunate that I couldn't find an app that I could sync this watch to. So that's unfortunately really disappointing. Now, in terms of this display itself, it's quite literally the opposite of the previous watch. In brighter environments, it's a pretty good watch because you can see everything clearly. But as it gets darker, it becomes really difficult to see anything in this watch. And there is this light button, which is supposed to light up the display, but it's not noticeable until it's pitch dark. And on a final note, the watch was also kind of uncomfortable to wear throughout the day. I've previously worn a lot of bulky, thick watches like these, but for some reason, these were particularly more uncomfortable than usual. Now, I know I'm supposed to talk about the $15 watch now, ideally, but I will talk about this in a little bit, the $20 watch. This thing is amazing. I don't know what else I can say. Okay, to start off with, this seems to be having a metal build, and the build quality is actually pretty good. It's like a plastic metal thing going on here. It has 1 button, a speaker grill on the side, and also a port for micro USB charging. But here's the coolest thing about this watch. This is the sound it makes when you try to turn it on. Amazing. Now, immediately you're greeted with this watch face, which we have a few options. None of it is really good. I think it's just because the display is so bad. By the way, even though the display looks bad, it's actually really functional, and the touch is really responsive here. This thing is filled with apps that you can only dream of in a watch. Like, so many options here: a gallery, messages, contacts, a calculator that works, calendar, like so many things. It even has a camera, like literally, it has a functional camera that you can take photos from. Like, that is awesome. And it even somehow managed to have WhatsApp, which is, I mean, crazy. I don't know how did they manage to do this. And another really good attention to detail is this clock face in the middle of the watch. Its hands actually move around as you're using it, which I think is a really cool touch. But what's even more cool is once you actually open up the back of this watch. Yes, this watch has a removable back, a removable lithium-ion battery, and a SIM card tray slot and a micro SD card tray slot, which is crazy because most phones these days don't even have these. And when you do put the micro SD and the SIM card in there, it also has a speaker and a microphone that lets you call people and talk to them.
Hello there, Johnson.
Hello,
How are
Mustafa.
you?
I'm good. How are you? Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine.
And it works pretty well. This watch is so cool. And it also do a few other things like voice recording, playing music using the SD card of this watch, or just by connecting to your phone. And a bunch of several things like that. Now, it is supposed to have an accompanying app in the App Store, but unfortunately I couldn't find it. It seems to be removed from the App Store or something, which seems to be a common theme with a lot of these watches. But fortunately, the watch comes with an application that shows you the QR code to download the app, and it was the shadiest website that you can actually download something from. So I genuinely would not recommend anyone else to do this. Now, after downloading the app, I was quite surprised because how good the UI looked. The app doesn't have much things going on for it, apart from the fact that it looks good and it sends the data to your device. Okay, a quick update, guys. The thing that I was most worried about kind of happened. The application that I downloaded for the smartwatch, I think also downloaded a malware along with it. There is this intrusive application that is showing ads all the time to my phone, like when I'm literally using Instagram or Facebook or whatever is it, these ads keep popping up. And I checked, it seems to be like a smartwatch application. So yeah, once again, this is kind of like the issue of buying cheap Chinese smartwatches. Now, the $15 watch. You see, fortunately for me, a lot of the things between the $15 and the $20 watch are pretty much the same. The OS was same, the internals was same, the battery is same, everything about these things were the same, except for how it looks, obviously. Now, I really do like how the $15 watch looks, but it stopped working. And it's kind of my fault too. You see, in my previous video, it was supposed to be a two-part thing where, I unbox it. And since the video got too long, I cut it out from there and I tested it out a little bit and I even dunked it in water, which was not a good idea in hindsight because it worked for that day and the next following day it completely got toasted. It stopped working. But again, it shares a lot of these things with its more expensive counterpart. In terms of the actual build quality itself, it's worse. It looks like metal, but it's actually plastic, and it gets really dirty fast, and it's also a little less well designed or thought through. And so that's about it for these watches. Now, before I end this video, I just need to talk a little bit more about these two watches. You see, it's really cool and interesting to see how much these watches can do. I mean, this stopped working obviously, but how much this watch was able to do, like, make calls and things like that. But you see, a smartwatch is supposed to be a companion for your smartphone. It's not supposed to be your smartphone. And these two watches tries to become or replace your smartphone. It's supposed to be this health companion that calculates your day, transmits data to your phone, shoots you notifications. These two does none of those, but instead tries to become a smartphone on its own, which in all fairness, it does, just not really well. I mean, just think about it. Do you really think you're going to make phone calls with this watch with that audio quality over using your actual phone to do it? The answer is no, and I'm just going to leave it at that because in all sense, these are technically smartwatches, but it actually fails to be a real smartwatch. And with that being said, make sure to subscribe like, please make sure to subscribe. I really need them subscribers. And until next time, see ya.